सर क्या?
शुरू करवा शुरू?
यस सर।
चलो ठीक है। कल we studied about plant kingdom. When we study the general classification of plant kingdom, the plant kingdom is generally divided into two subkingdoms. One is cryptogamy, and the another is phanerogamy. Coming to cryptogamy, yesterday I restricted plant kingdom only to bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperm and angiosperms. And many of my colleagues raised question that algae too belong to plant kingdom. But when we study the classification of Whitaker and Margulis 5 kingdom system of classification, which is a later system of classification, oh यहाँ हुज़ैफ़ा भी है, which is later system of classification, they have restricted plant kingdom only to multicellular eukaryotic photosynthetic organisms. And when we look at this definition that plants are multicellular eukaryotic photosynthetic organisms, knowing this definition of plants and knowing algae, we have some algae which are unicellular, we have some algae which are unicellular. So many examples of unicellular algae: Ulothrix, Chlamydomonas, Volvacus. Some algae have attained the colonial stage, for example Eudogonium, etc. But all algae do not belong to this definition, that is plants are multicellular eukaryotic photosynthetic organisms. Algae do not fall in this definition. So I restricted yesterday plant kingdom to cryptogamy and phanerogamy. But in algae we have green algae. Green algae are very similar to land plants. Land plants are these two, that is cryptogamy and phanerogamy. In cryptogamy, these are two subkingdoms. After subkingdom, or when we see taxonomic hierarchy, at the top we have kingdom, and after kingdom we have division. After division we have class. After class we have order, and then class, order, family, genus and species. Species is the lowest taxonomic category, having lowest rank. After kingdom we have two subkingdoms, and after subkingdoms we have division. The immediate category is division, because here we have these 7 are obligate categories. इसके अलावा भी हमें we have many other categories. Besides these 7 obligate categories, we have other categories like subclass, infraclass, superclass, order, superorder, infraorder, suborder, family, subfamily. इसी तरह species में हैं subspecies, variety, species के नीचे. Cryptogamy includes bryophyte and pteridophyte. Then we have Phanerogammas. Phanerogammas are those plants having visible gamy. Phaneros means visible and gamy means marriage. that is plants having sexual organs, sex organs, very prominent, very evident. In Pineiro Gammas we have gymnosperms and angiosperms. Both gymnosperms and angiosperms produce seeds. But gymnosperms differ from angiosperms. Gymnosperms have naked seeds, while angiosperms have seeds enclosed in ovary. Yesterday I gave the literal meaning of angiosperm. I will repeat it. Angiosperm. Angio means vessel and sperm means seed. That is, seed is enclosed in a vessel-like structure. This vessel-like structure is ovary, and seeds are contained in this ovary. The ovary later on matures into fruit. So, angiosperms are plants that produce seeds contained in fruits. Angiosperms are plants that produce seeds contained in fruits. Now, gymnosperms have naked seeds. For example, if we see pinus, several species of pinus, seeing several species of pinus, we see their cones, and in female cones later on we see naked seeds. So, gymnosperms produce seeds which are naked. In this respect, gymnosperms differ from angiosperms. But there are several other differences too, which we take later on. Today our main focus is bryophyte. Coming to the present topic, bryophytes. This is the outline classification, and this classification gives us idea about the position of bryophytes in plant kingdom. Bryophytes are along with pteridophytes, gymnosperms. This is important. Gymnosperms, angiosperms. Bryophytes along with pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms are called embryophytes. What is meant by embryophytes? Embryo means a multicellular. Embryo is a multicellular sporophytic structure. Sporophytic structure. इसका मतलब क्या है? एम्ब्रियो इज ए मल्टीसेलुलर स्पोरोफिटिक स्ट्रक्चर. एम्ब्रियो फाइट का मतलब है प्लांट. दैट इज ऑल दीज ग्रुप्स ऑफ प्लांट्स, ब्रायोफाइट, टेरिडोफाइट, जिम्नोस्पर्म एंड एंजियोस्पर्म, दे आर कलेक्टिवली कॉल्ड एम्ब्रियोफाइट्स. इसका मतलब है इन देयर लाइफ साइकिल they produce at some stage embryo. The embryo we are familiar with it in seed plants. Embryo is contained in seed, and embryo is a miniature plant contained in seed, and a seed is viable seed, functional seed, a complete seed only when it contains embryo. When we study the structure of embryo, though it is the part of developmental biology, there we have to study the embryo in detail, but here we have to know the embryo is the sporophytic structure, that is the first structure of sporophyte. This means that in these plants there is alternation of generation. What is meant by alternation of generation? That is, in life cycle of whether it is a bryophyte, it is a pteridophyte, it is a gymnosperm and angiosperm, there are two stages in the life cycle that differ from one another. One stage is gametophytic stage and the other is sporophytic stage. The sporophytic stage is that stage which produces spores, and the gametophytic stage is that stage which produces gametes. The spore, microspore, is the first cell of gametophyte, and megaspore fertilized is the first cell of sporophyte. Now, all these plants are embryophytes. The question arises, how bryophytes differ from these three embryophytes? Though bryophyte भी embryophyte है, pteridophyte is embryophyte, gymnosperm is embryophyte, angiosperm is embryophyte. Now the question arises, how bryophytes differ from these three embryophytes? Bryophytes are embryophytes but non-vascular embryophytes. Non-vascular embryophytes. This means that bryophytes have simplest level of organization in land plants. Simplest level of organization. What is meant by that simplest level of organization? They have only reached the tissue level of organization. इसका मतलब है bryophytes have not differentiated into root system and shoot system. Bryophytes में there is no well-developed root system and there is no well-developed shoot system. In fact, bryophytes lack true roots and bryophytes lack true shoot. Later on, we will study about what are the structures that help in the absorption of water and minerals in bryophytes. But at present, we have to know that bryophytes are embryophytes and they differ from other three embryophytes in being non-vascular. That is, they lack vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. While in other three groups of embryophytes, there is the development of xylem and phloem, though it is their development initiates in pteridophytes. That is, xylem और phloem का बनना शुरू हो जाता है pteridophytes में, and it reaches to climax. It reaches to final specialization in angiosperms. Angiosperms have highest development of xylem and phloem. That is, they have a specialized tissue of xylem and phloem. Gymnosperms are intermediate in having a well-developed xylem and phloem than pteridophytes, but bryophytes lack the vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Though in advanced bryophytes, a class of bryophytes which is we call mosses, bryopsida, they have a bit of tissue organization, vascular cells, but the vascular cells in mosses, for example, sphagnum, two vascular cells, they have vascular cells, but vascular cells have no lignin. Lignin is secondary cell wall material in their cell walls. Mosses do, although they have a simpler vascular cells, but the vascular cells lack lignin. In this respect, mosses too differ from pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Bryophytes are then most primitive non-vascular plants. Bryophytes इनको हम non-vascular cryptogammas भी कहते हैं. Non-vascular cryptogammas. Why we call them non-vascular cryptogammas? Non-vascular is that is they lack xylem and phloem, and cryptogam is that they have crypto concealed gammas, marriage, concealed reproductive organs, concealed sex organs. The sex organs in bryophytes are not visible or clear in them. In bryophytes, their habitat is mostly shady, moist places. The habitat of bryophytes is habitat. This is important. Where we can explore bryophytes, where we go for the search of bryophytes. From a botanist, we do not expect a botanist shall go to search the bryophytes in the hot deserts, because bryophytes have not that specialized tissue organization which can resist the hot temperature, the scarcity of water, etc. Now, their habitat is moist, shady places. अगर हमें ब्रायोफाइट्स ढूंढने हैं, इनको देखना है, इनको सर्च करना है, we should explore these places. In bryophytes, in this respect, bryophytes are called amphibians of plant kingdom. Amphibians of plant kingdom. Amphibian means both. Bien means life. That is, they have dual life. Dual life means that they can live in water. Dual life. Water is essential for them. वाटर कहां पर इनके लिए एसेंशियल है? मुनज्जा, वाटर कहां पर इनके लिए एसेंशियल है ब्रायोफाइट्स में? कोई बताए? इकरा चौहान, इकरा आप बताओ।
सर फर्टिलाइजेशन।
हाँ, फर्टिलाइजेशन। क्योंकि ब्रायोफाइट्स में दे प्रोड्यूस फ्लैजिलेटेड male gametes which we call antherozoids. Antherozoids can reach the archegonium only when there is a film of water, and this requirement of water makes bryophytes amphibians, and without this water they cannot complete their life cycle. In bryophytes there is a multicellular diploid sporophyte. This is important. ब्रायोफाइट्स में एक मल्टीसेल्यूलर डिप्लॉयड स्पोरोफाइट है. दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट. दिस मल्टीसेल्यूलर डिप्लॉयड स्पोरोफाइट जो है, इट इज डिपेंडेंट अपॉन independent multicellular gametophyte. This is important question. It is dependent upon independent multicellular. It is dependent upon independent multicellular gametophyte. This is the sabak of the day. थीम ऑफ दिस टॉपिक. ब्रायोफाइट्स में अगर हम इसको इलॉबरेट करेंगे, मल्टीसेलुलर अच्छा, ब्रायोफाइट्स में मल्टीसेलुलर डिप्लॉयड स्पोरोफाइट है, एंड दिस डिप्लॉयड स्पोरोफाइट इज डिपेंडेंट अपॉन इंडिपेंडेंट मल्टीसेलुलर गैमेटोफाइट. दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट. दिस मीन्स दैट ब्रायोफाइट्स में इंडिपेंडेंट कौन होता है? गैमेटोफाइट इंडिपेंडेंट होता है. The dominant stage, the dominant part of life cycle of bryophytes is gametophyte, and this gametophyte is haploid, usually, mostly haploid. That is, it contains n number of chromosomes.
Single set of chromosomes.
But the reason is here, the purpose of here is knowing that ब्रायोफाइट्स में गैमेटोफाइट डोमिनेंट फेज ऑफ लाइफ साइकिल है. ब्रायोफाइट्स की जो प्लांट बॉडी है, अगर हम कहीं भी जाएंगे और ब्रायोफाइट्स को हाथ में उठाएंगे तो हमने ब्रायोफाइट्स का क्या उठाया हाथ में, गैमेटोफाइट। और इस